Good afternoon, everybody. This is Michelle Childs. I'm the Chief of Staff for COABE. I'd like to welcome you to the August 19th, 2020 webinar, How to Learn Science Through Open Resources. This is all brought to you today by our generous sponsor for WorkReady Mobile. And I am going to introduce you to John on behalf of WorkReady Mobile. John?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So my name is John Flatt. I am a growth consultant for WorkReady Mobile. Our CEO, Keith Thode, I filled in for him today. So this is the first time I've actually done this presentation. So luckily for me, it's impossible for people to throw objects through Zoom. So welcome. I really appreciate your time today. WorkReady Mobile was created by Keith Thode. Keith Thode is an incredible entrepreneur that has been around for 20 years doing work for tech for good. That's very important. I started a company with Red McCombs years and years ago, excuse me, that got very big, and we did incredibly well. And it's now I am totally focused on tech for good. So I bring you WorkReady Mobile today. I'm switching. It's not cooperating. Well, do y'all see my screen? It's not switching.
I do. Well, I'll share then for you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Keith, so give me 1 second.
Okay. So while Michelle does that, WorkReady Mobile is a mobile app that is geared specifically towards getting incredible performance out of adult students. And it's about really increasing the performance in a very significant way. So this is a very unique app. It's a first of a kind app. And we have seen some pretty incredible things happen with it. We are approaching 10,000 students that have used this app, and about 450 classes are using this nationwide so far. So we're very proud of what we've done so far. With that said, we have a lot more good to do. And so we are going to continue to do that. The reason I was saying before, the reason I joined this team is because I am an entrepreneur, but I really wanted to do something that was going to make a difference in the world. And so far, we've been able to make a pretty good impact on helping adult students make a big difference in their performance. And so I'll jump a little bit more into the app itself. Next slide. Thank you. So what this app does is it increases the retention of students. It increases the overall performance and gains. And we're looking to help them, obviously graduate at a higher rate. We're looking to help them get jobs. And basically, this is a one-stop shop for them to kind of monitor everything and to get performance. And so from the admin perspective, you're going to be able to get this incredible data from this app that is really going to help you to manage, and to see the gains happen in real time. Next slide. So I wanted to talk just a little bit about some of the specific features that come with this. It comes with a messaging platform with a multi-organizational structure. It has student cohort discussions. It has individual automated messaging, in-app translation. It has a goal-setting exercise, which we have found, obviously when people are able to set goals, it really helps their performance. We have a job board. We have an attendance, measurement to obviously help you keep track of the attendance. We have a gains capture. We have case management. It has appointments and calendar integration. It has a campus map. And it goes on and on. We just integrated a Spanish version as well too. So you can actually have all of these incredible features in Spanish. Next. So we developed this to be a win-win-win is what we call it, but everybody wins. Obviously, we want students to have more income. We want them to have more self-esteem. We want them to get their diploma. Teachers, obviously, you guys know they love increasing the graduation rates. It's better communication. It really saves a lot of time and energy for the teachers themselves. And for the administrators, obviously, we're increasing the positive impact. There's quantifiable gains, and more students equals more funding for you guys as well. So we have 20 grants right now that we are giving away, and there's no setup fee. And this setup fee, I think, is usually about $15,000. No monthly fees until next year. And we're very flexible with how we do this. And so really, Keith Dote is the one to reach out to talk to about that for now. But, we've seen some very positive things from this. And, it's a good time to try it, obviously, because we're giving away 20 grants, if you will. We're also doing virtual conferences and career fairs. And basically what we do there is we get you set up. Obviously, the world has changed quite a bit, but if you need that service, we are very good at that as well. So if you guys have any questions and would like to learn more about this, or maybe get a kind of a full-blown presentation, you can contact Keith at the information that exists right there. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, John, for sharing. So next, I'd like to present today's webinar presenter, Lisi Wise. Lisi retired as a tenured ESL basic skills instructor and distance technology trainer at El Paso Community College to work as an educational consultant with her own reconnection company. She currently serves as a links trainer and resource reviewer after years of moderating its reading and writing community of practice as well. Lisi also evaluates projects in the Southwest that serves Native American students entering STEM occupations. She trains teachers, pre-K, college, and adult ed online through live video and on-site on a variety of topics: adult literacy and college preparation, integrated instructional practices, project-based learning, early reading acquisition, early childhood education, and ECE program management, real-life math instruction, instructional technology and distance ed delivery, ESL instruction, OER integration into teaching, and cultural influences on learning. She is a curriculum designer and publisher for highly innovative Southwest Colorado STEM Prep project, and creates contextualized digital content to prepare future workers to succeed in training for trucking, heavy equipment, and health occupations. Her resume includes a rich background as a Peace Corps administrator in Brazil, where she also grew up, and a long list of conferences and presentations offered nationally and internationally to a variety of audiences. OER practices and materials represent more than an interest to her. Since their inception, this has been her passion. And again, I'd like to welcome you to Lisi. Go ahead, Lisi.
Thank you, Michelle. I am delighted to be part of this session because, as you mentioned in that intro, OER is a passion of mine, and it's a relatively new kid on the block since it started in the early 90s. And because I've been around forever, I saw it start, and I love seeing it blossom. So thank you for the opportunity to share a few things about OER, Open Educational Resources, in relation to learning science, or especially among adults. So I'm going to bring up my screen, hopefully here, and we'll get started. So as you can see in the title, How to Learn Science Through Open Resources, and we're going to discuss a little bit about links as well. Links is, is your online community of practitioners. And Links has so many resources, and since they're sponsoring my own participation in this effort, I'll introduce you to a few things about Links. I also want to mention that if you have questions during the presentation, use the Q&A rather than the chat. I'm going to be asking you to have to add input into the chat. I'll ask you different questions here and there, but if you have questions for me regarding what the presentation is covering, put them into the Q&A and we will review them at the end, because I'm not sure, I want to make sure that we get to the essence of the presentation before we start dealing with questions. So I want to hear those questions at the end. So what is Links? Links is your online community. It's a Department of Education effort, OCTE, and it has wonderful resources for adult educators. And for some, it's a well-kept secret, I'm sorry to say. But as you can see, it has a community of practice. And to me, that's the vital part of Links, is where educators, adult educators, get together to discuss, to propose new practices, to discuss research, to pose questions. We encourage students, we encourage teachers to come in and say, I'm having this problem with my student, what do I do, any ideas? And then you're talking to peers, you're talking to the best minds in the field, and the communities. I'm going to show you the number of communities of practice that Links sponsors. There's a learning portal where you can take free courses. Some of them are facilitated if there are enough people who want to take it. Most are self-paced. So for yourself, for your programs, you can take self-paced courses in all sorts of things. And by the way, there are 3 courses that cover OER. One is a self-paced, the other 2 is OER in math, and the other one is OER in science. And the lesson plan that we're going to talk about, the model that I'm going to discuss, was developed in the course that I taught for science. The resource collection is a treasure chest of reviewed research materials on adult education on a variety of topics. The Learner Center is what it says. It's for your adult learner, and it has those activities for them. And finally, Links supports states in providing professional development, and there are 4 regions, and essentially states who are wishing to use your Links resources can negotiate for those services. So here are the community of practice. And I know that all of them sound wonderful and you're just going to want to join all of them. You join the community, you join Links, and it maybe takes a couple of days for them to approve you, after which you can participate. Anyone can go into these communities and actually read what's being done. But if you want to participate, and I encourage you to do that, you'll have so much fun. I suggest you do 1 or 2 communities at first. Notice that there's a science community, and notice that there is an integrating technology community, which is perfect for our times right now. And take 1 or 2, because you don't want to be overwhelmed by getting an email a day. You can choose when you want your digest, but you don't want an email every day that lists all of the new discussions in all these groups. So I suggest you take 1 and go for there and participate. So there is a, how do I start, a quick reference guide. If you go to the link site, links.ed.gov, and you can access that, where do I start guide, and go from there. Let me tell you that in the chat, Michelle said that she would post a link to resources. that she would post a link to resources for this webinar. So if you go to that bit.ly link that is posted in your chat, you can go to that site, and I've posted a PDF of this PowerPoint presentation and a packet. And that packet has all of the links that I'm sharing here. And I'm going to share a lot of links here. So I hope I don't make you dizzy. But anyway, just so you know that you do have a packet. And also, of course, COABE always gives you access to these webinars once they are over. So in this session, we're going to start by defining OER in open classrooms. We're going to find, explore, and evaluate open science content from different sources, and you're going to fall in love. And I'm going to tell you that it's just the top of the iceberg, if we have any iceberg left, the top of the iceberg in terms of resources that are blossoming all over the place on open resources. And then we're going to suggest an open activity within a lesson plan, and for sure examine a lesson plan if we have time to develop an activity within that. So I'm going to open the chat. Oops. Let me see if I can, I'll stop sharing, see if I can open the chat. And it looks like it's pretty busy. Okay, so I'll keep that open so I can keep track. And I want to ask you to ask questions in the Q&A. If you rest your cursor at the bottom of your screen, you'll see Q&A. Ask questions there, but if you want to chat, and I'll be asking you to have some input here and there. So let me go back. So what is OER? What is that little black icon there, that little square at the bottom? What is Creative Commons? What are these terms? So I'll give you my own interpretation of OER. The O stands for oh my goodness, open. Anything that has a publication limitation, anything that's copyrighted is not open, it's closed. So the O stands for open. What about the E? Well, the E stands for educational, or you can say enlightening, exciting, extraordinary, and add your own adjectives to that. So open, educational, and resources. It's a plural term, and I'm going to mention that in a minute. It is a plural term, so it stands for resources or recourses or revelations, whatever you want to say, receivers. OER is the kid on the block that is causing colleges and universities to stop having students spend all that money to buy textbooks. Nothing wrong with textbooks, but colleges or universities are going to open resources because students can then afford to go to school and they have a higher enrollment. Open resources, OER, really describe the types of openness that authors award materials. This was developed by David Wiley, one of the founders of the movement. And you can get a license or license your own materials to retain, reuse, revise, remix, and redistribute content. You can't do that with copyrighted material. So before we were so territorial, I remember at the college, some teachers would even lock their desks to avoid having other people take their materials. And I always thought that was funny because it's education. We ought to give it away. Creative Commons is the license provider for OER. And as you can see, when you use open materials, you might only see something like CC BY or license 1, 2, 3, but very often you'll see these little icons which make it very easy for you to identify your rights in using the material. So the most open attribution is, the most open license is CC BY. CC stands for Creative Commons, BY is attribution. So all of the OER material requires attribution. You can do whatever you want depending on the license, but always attribute the source. Then you can change it and mix it. And I hope you do. In fact, I hope that your students do, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And then you can see CC BY SA, share alike. So you can give attribution and then you can share the materials as long as you do it in the same license. Then CC BY NC and SA. So you by now can say BY, you know what NC means, non-commercial. So if there's no NC in the license, you can even sell the material. How about that? And SA is share alike. CC BY ND is no derivative. That means you can share it, even commercially, but don't change it. CC BY NC on the left bottom corner, CC BY NC ND, no derivatives, non-commercial. So that's probably the most limiting of the open licenses. And then CC BY NC simply means you can do anything you want, but don't sell it. So I'm not going to go to Creative Commons, but when you get your materials, either by watching this later or using the link that was put in the chat, you can find that link and go to Creative Commons. I'm not going to take the time to go through Creative Commons because we have a mountain of other resources to discover too. So there are 5 Creative Commons licenses, and there's also the normal license of public domain. Anything in the public domain, you don't even have to attribute. You can use it freely. So let's take a minute here and look at a few OER examples and samples of what you can find out there. You're probably very familiar with Wikipedia. Everything on Wikipedia is CC BY SA. I'll let you think about that. CC, you know what it is, BY attribution. SA, share alike, share alike, okay. The home page for Wikipedia is linked here, and they also have a portal for science that I'll show you. And if you have any doubt about using those materials, I have a link there that shows you how to do that. So here you have, I'll enlarge this a little bit. You can see the home page for Wikipedia. Notice that on the left side, there are a whole bunch of other projects, including Wikibooks, which you can use and are free. And under Wikibooks, I'll go to that link in a minute. And on the top left, you will see the categories of materials. And if you go to science, let's click on science, you can see that Wikipedia has a whole bunch, a treasure of resources relating to science using their license, which allows you to do anything but share alike. You can click on categories under science, and you can then have yourself or have students explore the wonderful resources that are available to you, free to modify and share, as long as you share alike. Now, another thing about Wikipedia that I find, because I do a lot of illustrations, I'm always doing PowerPoints or something. If you find an illustration that you want to use, if you left click on that illustration, it opens the license for that illustration. And since this is on Wikipedia, you can see the license there, CC by SA. 3 is simply the third type of license that we saw a while ago. And it says attribution. Well, how are you going to attribute? What do you want? If you go to see more detail, you'll find that next to that image, there are some choices here. And if you say use this file, notice that under attribution, you can just copy and paste that information and place it under the image. I always use very small font, but I put it in. And for those of you who might not be familiar with taking images online, of course, if it's copyrighted, you can't. But in this case, you can. So you right click on that image and you can you can open the image in a new tab. You can save the image, or if I usually do copy the image, and then I copy the image and put it right into my PowerPoint or my Word document, or have students do that when they're illustrating and moving materials. So let's go back and look at Wikibooks. Just very quickly, notice that there's a whole section on Wikibooks that have the same license that you discussed, and you can go to science and click on science, and you can see the books that are listed under different topics. So that's just a short introduction to Wiki, which I hope you will explore. And furthermore, I hope you'll have students explore, because we're going to talk about that in a minute. Another site that has wonderful resources, and you might be familiar with, I don't know if they call it PHET or PHET, but to be sure and not to offend, I'm going to say PHET. And since I live in Colorado, I'm very proud of this Colorado resource. And if you're not familiar with it, you're ready for a treat. So this site, the only restriction is by. That's all you have to do is attribute the source. And if you have resources in your program that allow you to modify simulations, then you can change them. You can even sell them, because the only restriction is by. I believe that's it. Okay, so if you scroll down, you can see that there are simulations under physics, chemistry, math, earth, science, and biology. And you can go to any one of those, and you can, like, if in a minute I'll do that. Or if you go up to simulations, and let's say you want to see all simulations, click on simulations, all sims. And when you get to all sims, click on browse. See browse there? Browse. And what a treasure of simulations and resources. Notice that you can go to, and take things out of the way here. Under physics, you can click on this arrow and just keep scrolling. You just keep on scrolling. And all of this is on physics. Let's say you want chemistry. Go to chemistry, and over here where you see this arrow on the right column, keep scrolling, and you can find all of the simulations. Some are a little more difficult, some take more time. So if I Let's go to physics. Let's find an easy simulation. This is pretty easy. So you'll see there's a place to download it here and gives you more simulations that are related to it. And then you just click. And some take a little longer than others. And if you open it, this is pretty simple. You can add levels, you can add rulers, you can add marks, and then students can play with, let's say I'm going to put this 5 kilo over here, and then I'm going to put this one over here, and do they balance? Yes, they balance. What if I put it over here? Not so balanced. What if I take this one and put it over here? What if I take it here and add this one here? Well, I'd have to add this a little more here. Anyway, these simulations are great. And as you can see, there are hundreds of them that I hope you'll have students use and modify, because after all, these are open materials. I thought you'd enjoy using these two sites, and as I say, they're the very tip of the, I'll use a mountain of materials that allow you, you can do searches on OER Commons or CCC or Creative Commons, but I've added these for you so you can go to, for instance, Salisbury University, and they teach you how to find open resources on popular sites, like if you're looking for text or Google search. Do you know you could Google items and find only those that have the open rights? Or you can go to YouTube, do the same. So let me take you quickly to Google, and you'll find, let's say, let's use something scientifically, scientific like a vial. Okay, I want a vial. And I click, and I have a bunch of articles that will come up. Or I have images that come up. Come on. Come on, Google. And of course, you can do the images and find a whole bunch, because I'm always working with images, and you can find a whole bunch, but can you use them? Can I just go here and do save image as? Well, I don't know, because I don't know the site. So if I only want open images to come up, then I go to settings. From settings, go to search activity. Go to advanced search. So from settings, advanced search, put all the information you want there. And I'm looking for images because that's where I was. And down here, see down here, it says usage rights on the left bottom. So click on that and then choose free to use or share even commercially. And if you click on that and go to advanced search, everything that comes up should be open resource. Now, if I don't know the site, like I know Wikipedia and public domain, etc., but if I don't know a site, I still check to be sure that it's open. But normally this gives you a really good start. This meta finder, in this one you enter the search that you want or that the student wants, and it'll search all of these. See all of these OER sources at the bottom? You can choose all sources, or you can just, like OpenStax is great for textbooks, open, and just choose. And when you do a search, it'll bring up all of those links for you to explore. So those are two searching tools that you can use and access through the resources that I posted online for you. So what is open pedagogy? Of course, we're an adult ed, maybe we should say open andragogy. But open pedagogy, yes, uses open resources in learning. In addition, if you have an open classroom, and if you want to classify yourself as being a teacher in an open classroom, in addition to using open resources for students to learn from, you will also have students take the resource, modify it, and republish it. Now think about that. When a student knows enough about something to modify it, he's learned something from it. And he's also teaching it. And remember, we learn what we teach. I firmly believe that. We don't give students enough time to teach. So we learn what we teach, and by republishing those materials that they modify, then they are teaching others and learning at the same time. So when people talk about open resources, that's, open pedagogy and open classrooms, that is what they're talking about. Let me do a little chat here and see if I can find out how many of you currently use a whole bunch. Looks like you're sharing some of those, but anyway, you can, how many of you currently use open resources in your instruction? Let me see how we're going to see that. I think you have, you can raise your hands, can't you? I forgot to ask that.
They're typing in the chat.
Okay, good. No, don't yet. Okay. Hopefully I'll have some converts here. Okay. Good. Just learning. Believe me, you're learning a lot of good stuff. Not as much as I'm going to. I can say the same for myself. Every day I say, I'm going to use them more. Just learning, no learning. Fantastic. So, okay, by sharing these resources with you, I can tell that they're going to be useful to those of you who are not using them and can still, I love these not yet, just learning. Love that. Okay, so let's go to OER Commons. OER Commons is growing as probably the largest repository of open content. Now keep in mind that open content isn't always standard-based. It's not always the best content. That's why, as with all material that you share with students, please always go through the resources, go through them and find out. So OER Commons provides not only a whole resource of lesson plans that are created in OER Commons or posted from other sites. OER Commons allows you to go in there, or better yet, in open classrooms, allows your students to go in there and create content right on the site. So let's go take a look. So here it is. You can see that OER Commons has an inviting appealing entry, and it has a whole, if you scroll down, I'm going to diminish this a little bit. If you scroll down, you'll find a whole lot of help. So if you say, oh my gosh, I don't know how to use this stuff, there's so much help. And you can find tutorials and videos, and you can go to YouTube and find videos on how to create content and so forth. But it also has a very nice little search engine right off the front. You can use advanced search as well. So let's say science is my topic. Subject, let's do applied science. Educational level, it took us a while to convince OER to add this last little thing here, but notice adult education is in there, finally. And if you want to meet standards, fine, but to find most content, I don't even go there. And then you search. And what comes up, you can see 481 results. So you might want to really take those keywords and work with them. But you see here, the first one, CC BY, no non-commercial, no derivative. So this is a resource you can use, and but no derivatives. No, you can't change them. And climate science, these are mostly lesson plans, and they are for adult learners. Okay, so let's say you go and you want to check one of these out. Let's go, you click on it and it opens a window that describes the resource. So here is where you can tell whether or not it's worth your going further into it. Look at the tags down here. And if you still and see no evaluations yet, and you can evaluate a resource yourself to help others know more about it. So if you say, yeah, I think I want to go look at it, then you go view the resource. Now, as you can see, looks like this domain is open. As you can see, this resource is probably not built in OER Commons. If it was built in, if it had been built in OER Commons, you would be able to remix it right there. Let's see if this one is. Now you can see it goes, oh, by the way, this Open Ed is a good little source for resources in itself. And a lot of their lesson plans are listed under OER Commons. So anyway, you can play. This is conditional remix, and it was probably, now, if somebody developed the lesson in OER Commons, you can go to that lesson and it gives you a platform to actually change it. So students don't have to do it all offline. They can do it all here. So if I go back to OER Commons, there is also an advanced search where you can choose all kinds of categories. And let me look for source. Source. Okay, if you go to content source, you'll notice that you can select only those, like if you have students that want to modify in this, you can go to open author. And if you only select those that were created here in open author, then those resources come up and you can remix them right online. So that's where you can go with the advanced search. And up here, notice it says add OER. So there are two ways to add resources here, and we're going to see one in a minute. So you can go to create a resource, and it gives you a platform. You can just start writing, and you can add sections so you can publish it right online. Or you can submit it from the web. And the lesson that we're about to go to was created off of OER, but I remixed it on OER. So we're going to go there pretty soon here. So Don Dutton was a student of mine in the Links OER Science course. And let me see if I have that here. Anyway, Don is he is an adult educator in New Mexico, and he works with the state there. And he developed a course on the effects of movements and earth, plate tectonics. And as you can see, he created the lesson in community links. Links, the source that I talked about at the beginning, has a lesson planner. And in the resources that I posted for you online, I published information on how to access that lesson planner. So if you go to that lesson planner, you'll find that Links allows you to go in there and create a lesson using the WIPEDIA model, W-I-P-P-E-A. And the WIPEDIA model is not only a model that is used by adult educators everywhere, by educators everywhere, but it all, in my view, it replicates what we call active learning or direct learning. If you work with learning disabled students, you'll know that direct learning is not only a good method for everybody, but specifically for learning disabled students who tend to be very intelligent, but need more structure and predictability in their work. So WIPEDIA is really a replication of the direct method, which to me is, you do it with their help, they do it with your help, they do it. So from being dependent to independent. So WIPEDIA has the first three, which is warm up for W, introduction, and presentation. Those are I do it. The warm up is simply to get them involved. Introduction is giving them an idea of what they're going to be doing. And the presentation, P, is simply teaching, hopefully not lecture. The next P, the second P for WIPEDIA is practice. So presentation, practice. And I always say, when you're developing a long plan, go from presentation to practice. Exchange those P's, presentation, practice, so that I do it with your help, you do it with my help, and you do it. And the last, the E is for evaluation, the A is for application, or some people put an E there for extension. So if I click on here, you'll see that this is in Links. But if I click on the OER Commons, it'll go to OER Commons, which we just saw, and notice that I remixed Don's lesson. I added a picture to it, and it was open, it was public domain. And then you can see in OER Commons, you always have this information shared. So you have the overview of a lesson, the basic unit information, you can read as well as I do. Put this up a little bit for you. Estimated time required, lesson goal, lesson objectives, and I'm a big promoter of measurable objectives. So he did a good job on that. And notice that his third objective is an open classroom. Learners will remix an open resource to tell their own story of the earth plate's movements and effects of that movement. That is an open classroom. Okay, so you go to the unit plan, and this is a WIKIPEDIA model. So the warm-up, he uses a warm-up with terms, get them familiar with terms, how much they know. The activity of the introduction, he has them asking questions, which he also has them apply to the open content that they're learning from. He's using 3 different OERs. They watch the OER, and I'm using OER broadly. It's not supposed to be a singular term. So I can't say I'm looking for an OER, I have to say an open resource. But people have gotten used to, and you know, language changes because people decide they don't want to do it that way anymore. Skills to be presented, and then it has all the details for discussing and so forth. So students open the 3rd OER plan for this lesson with the intent of manipulating it for their own use. And then he has them ask where he guides them through the process of changing the resource. And then he has included discussion, reading, problem solving, research, role play. This is a pretty good template. And then the evaluation and oral quiz, role play demonstration. It's a pretty good template, and you have it at your disposal if you want to emulate any of the practices. So rather than go, since we're running close to the end here, let me, rather than have you talk more, I just wanted to give you an example of what it's like to have students learn from content and also learn from changing it and then republishing. And because I created this, I remixed it on OER Commons, students can remix it there and change it. So how might students modify? And I'm going to ask you to, in the chat, add to this list. They can modify by adding or changing a graphic. They can, oh, I love this one because our students get into these standardized tests and they've never had any experience either creating standardized test questions or responding to them informally. So how about having them take an open resource and create a test that uses standardized test language? They can create a new video. If you go to YouTube, there are plenty of ways to create videos, lots of guides. Add a new concept or steps to an animation. Create a problem. We don't have students creating problems enough. If they can create a problem, they are better able to solve problems. And you know that science is math is full of problems. They can change the setting or topic to fit a new environment. This is one of my favorite, develop a cartoon in a topic. Maybe one day I'll do a webinar on using cartoons, and oh my gosh, there's so much online on developing cartoons, but students love creating cartoons and, on a topic, and extend the topic to another environment. So do you have any other ideas you want to quickly share in the chat? Role play, good. Write a skit. Yeah, write a rap. I love that. Write a rap. Good. So I'll let you think about that. And your packet has resources there. It has this one. And this is a science inquiry map. So how might students change this to show that they know what a science inquiry map is? And since we're getting close to the end of time here, they might change the illustrations. They might change, this is from Wisconsin plants. Instead of using plants, use another type of information that better relates to your students there. Oh, somebody said photojournal. So illustrations make great modifications for OER. So because we're running out of time and I want to have a couple of questions, know that I've added other repositories. Adult Learning Zone is fantastic. It's on OER. And Jennifer Madrell took her MOOCs and all of the content that the students developed, she put on OER just for adults. Jeff Gumas, if you're familiar with going to co-op presentations, Jeff has crowdedlearning.org. It's a fantastic source for teachers to go and use OER sources, put them together, and he has a science section there, which this link goes to, etc. There are more simulations listed here for you, and these are sample open lesson plans that you can modify or have students modify just for fun. All of this is under the content in on that packet that you have online. Sample of other resources, and share your resources with each other. Get on links, join a community, and share your resources, no matter what. There is a science community, and I invite you to go there. So we have, what, 2 minutes for questions. So Michelle, do we have any questions that I can address in 120 seconds? I see crowd, it is amazing. Yes, it is, I'm glad. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed the presentation, and please contribute resources. If you have anything that you think is good, license it and put it under OER Commons so that others can enjoy it.
Lacey, the only question I'm seeing in there is Millie asked, you mentioned Creative Commons several times. Can you provide the link? And go ahead.
Sure. Let me go quickly to share screen. And it's in the packet as well. Come on. Let me go way up here and find that. Creative Commons, there it is.
Wonderful. I'll put it in the chat.
So it's very simple, creativecommons.org. Now there's Creative Commons, and that's the licensing, and they're developing a search engine. They now have it for images, but with the repository that I shared rather than Creative Commons is OER Commons. So I think I gave you that. Anyway, no more questions?
No more questions that I see yet.
Okay, well, let me take you to my last. Thank you, and I'll leave this up here for you as we close. And thank you for participating. I'm so glad that we have more people using OER and having students use OER for learning.
Yes.
Thanks, everybody.
And I have a quick poll if you all will give a second and just answer that quick question for us. We'd greatly appreciate it. And you all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much, Lacey. We really appreciate you taking the time to present this and all the wonderful resources. I can't tell you how many people said that throughout your presentation. Great resources.
Fantastic. And as I say, it is just a little bit. There is so much more, and I hope you go explore. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. Be safe.
Thank you.